This is perfect transition into the afternoon games since we're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills and the LA Chargers here. Buffalo, the biggest storyline this week. The Buffalo Bills, who are 5-4 and in a playoff position, are going away from their starting quarterback Tyrod Taylor, who has been startable in most fantasy football leagues thus far, to start rookie Nathan Peterman. I am telling you right now, please do not tweet me or text me or ask me about starting Nathan Peterman in his first game ever against a pretty above-average LA Chargers defense.
And the best pass rushing defense.
Exactly right. So do not talk to us about Nathan Peterman. Don't make that a thing. Don't try and get cute. Don't start him.
No.
But let's talk about LaShawn McCoy.
The only startable Bills player in fantasy.
Exactly
That's it.
right.
It's LaShawn McCoy, and I'm not starting anybody else.
And unfortunately, he's all the way down to a flex option and not an RB1 for anybody at this point.
No, the problem here is that you saw his decline over the last few weeks. He was so much involved in that offense, and over the last 2 weeks, he's had games where he hasn't even reached 40 yards. That's not startable as an RB1.
And that's with chemistry with the starting quarterback.
Yes.
This, you have no idea what Peterman is going to bring to the table. You have no idea how he's going to be able to react, what the play calling is going to look like with Peterman as a part of this offense. I'm not starting. I have Charles Clay and I have LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy has been removed from my RB1 and RB2 spot. I have him in a flex spot, hoping that he puts up RB1 or RB2 numbers, just because I can't not start Shady. If the second you sit him,
he's got to be out there.
Yeah, the second that you sit him, he scores 2 touchdowns and runs for 150 yards because he has that capability. But if you're relying on him to be your RB1 this week, you're screwed.
You're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Love the Chargers defense in this matchup, too.
Yeah.
I just don't know how Buffalo
top
scores.
5 are the ones we've talked about.
Yeah, I don't know how Buffalo scores points in this game.
All right, let's talk about
Sacks galore.
Yeah, let's talk about
Sacks galore.
the Chargers side of the football since we're not loving on anything from the Buffalo Bills. The LA Chargers, we obviously talked about Phillip Rivers. He was cleared from concussion protocol. He will be starting in this game. Melvin Gordon had a rough week last week, could have a bounce-back week this week.
My man Melvin, who's been phenomenal for me all year, has had a couple little drop-off weeks because Eckler's, who I think is a flex option today, has been getting back. Melvin Gordon bounces back big today, guaranteed touchdown, 100 total yards, few catches out of the backfield. They're going to try to save Rivers' head a little bit. They're not going to throw it a ton, but I think those two guys go off.
Yeah, kind of the stat that you have in here. Since trading Marcel Darius, the Bills are allowing 6 yards a carry on the ground. A carry.
Yeah, that was a stat I looked at,
Nice.
and I had to read 3 times just to make sure that was correct. But yeah,
Thanks for proving my point.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon is a must start this week. I know that Phillip Rivers and company haven't been what you wanted them to be, but I think this is the type of matchup where you're going to feel pretty comfortable here. The other one I want to talk about is Phillip Rivers specifically, just because 2 of the last 4 quarterbacks, Jameis Winston, Derek Carr, they didn't need their ground attack as much, and he's in a decent spot here as far as starting wise. The Bills have given up over 300 yards of offense to opposing quarterbacks. He's not somebody I love, but if you're going to play Phillip Rivers in a good matchup, I think this week might be it.
Yeah, for Hunter Henry owners, I have good luck.
Yeah,
good luck expecting when they're going to throw him the ball.
It's a guessing game with him.
With Melvin Gordon, too, I don't think he's 100%. I thought he would bounce back out of the bye week better and be 100%. I still don't think that he is. So that's why Eckler has had 2 or 3 weeks in a row of having a bunch of catches out of the backfield. He's had touchdowns over Melvin Gordon because he's in the game, because I don't think he's capable of playing a full game. Mm-hmm. I still think he has a big day today, but I think Eckler I would look at as a flex option if you're trying to pick somebody up.
All right, let's get into this next matchup, also an afternoon matchup, the Bengals and the Browns. We'll start things off, or the Bengals and the Broncos. We're going to start things off with the Bengals. We'll talk about Joe Mixon, the focal point of this offense. Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard, don't talk about those guys. It's the Joe Mixon show, which we kind of all expected to happen. But he hasn't been overwhelming. He hasn't been great. But he's been decent enough here.
I'm still waiting for the talent to match the production, and maybe that might not be something that happens until next season. I moved him down to a flex spot, and honestly, I had him benched this week until Sterling Shepard was ruled out. So now he's a flex for me. You hope he gets in the end zone again, but I don't see him getting 100 yards.
Yeah,
he hasn't done it.
Yeah, this is the stat here. He has found the end zone in back-to-back games, but he hasn't hit 40 rushing yards in 3 weeks. So flex him if you'd like. That's what I have in that as my notes, because
put him on your bench and forget you have him on your team this week. Okay? Let me tell you a couple things that I go with. When I said I like guys that are playing for contracts and Blaine Gabbert, I love playing teams that have been embarrassed. The Broncos defense has a lot of pride. They've been embarrassed bad. 2 weeks in a row. Most points they've given up in a 2-week span since like 1945, I think was the stat. And I will correct you. Mixon is not the focal point of that offense. A.J. Green is. He's a must start always. Don't like that matchup today either, but I have him. He's going on the field. Mixon, forget about it. Get nothing today. That defense plays really good. That offensive line's terrible.
No,
you still have to have help if you're a running back.
Yeah, and I know I got a couple of notes on Andy Dalton just because he's had decent weeks, but this isn't the week that you want to start him in Denver. I know that Denver's defense hasn't been the same over the last few weeks, and I know that they had a very, very rough week last week. But as far as who I'm starting, I have in my notes.
That was Tom Brady.
A.J. Green bounced back in a big way after getting ejected. We all know about what happened to him. Posting, over 100 yards, 5 catches and a touchdown. He is the only trustworthy offensive player from a fantasy perspective. That's it. That's in my notes. I know that for me, because of injuries that I've endured to running backs on my team, I have to start Joe Mixon. There is no better option that is out there. I got a couple of Periscope questions that came in about Broncos players, and mostly about Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and who we like there. So let's just go right to those guys. Of all their offensive weapons, do not start a running back. I will just tell you that. There hasn't been one running back who has had over 10 rushing targets at all. They're C.J. Anderson, Jamal Charles. It is a complete running back by committee at this point, and you can't trust anybody. This is a worse version of the New England Patriots and what they do to their running backs. Do not start anybody here. But Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, some of these other pieces, we got a lot of questions on Periscope about that.
If I had to pick one of the two, I think that's the question. I'd go with Emmanuel Sanders.
Absolutely.
I think he's going to get more targets. He's going to get more catches.
I think he has more chemistry with Brock, to be honest. And quicker coming out of the breaks, better one-on-one matchup. Brock is not a really throw-it-on-time kind of guy, especially in this offense because the offensive line's been so bad. Emmanuel Sanders can get in and out of his routes a lot faster. He's going to create more separation. I think he has a much bigger day than Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah, he's the only guy that I have that I'm starting. Demaryius has been a huge letdown this year. I mean, the thing is, I think Demaryius still gets points from his Peyton Manning days where he was just unbelievable and everybody fell in love with him. It's the same way I feel about Julius Thomas, who's now on another football team. People think that they're still going to be those guys. They don't have the same quarterback.
Emmanuel Sanders can still run.
Yes.
Demaryius Thomas is a step slower than he was in those days.
Absolutely. I think he's the only guy we like there. Is there anything else from this? Do you feel confident starting the Broncos defense this week?
I do.
Okay.
I actually do. I mean, if you're in that mid-range and you're looking for somebody and, okay, you might swing for the fences and hope, you're going to get some sacks, for sure. You're probably going to get some turnovers. There's not really a lot of place to throw the ball in this game. They're going to try to force-feed A.J. Green because they don't really have anything else. I like the Broncos defense in this matchup.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think we kind of touched on it.
You're talking about Super Bowl champs that had got embarrassed.
Oh no,
2 weeks in a row.
Too much talent on that defense for them to not.
Specifically, Captain Von Miller.
Absolutely.
I don't think that when we talk about embarrassed, they got embarrassed last week. It was very
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
they gave up 51 in Philly the week before that.
Yeah, it was really bad. And when they're back home, this is a favorable matchup for them. The Bengals offense isn't great, and I just don't see enough from there. All right, next matchup, Mexico City. Patriots and the Raiders. This is going to feel like a home game for the Raiders, even though it is technically a home game for them, but they're in Mexico City. The Patriots have been practicing. I know I made a joke about this on Thursday on our podcast, but they have been practicing in some air ventilation system that makes them feel like, because they're the Patriots and because Tom Brady probably put together a $250 million facility for them to practice for a week, because that's what they do. So if you think this is going to impact this team,
they also played in Denver last week at Mile High. Now you're at a mile and a half high, but they're going to be fine.
I understand that that's something that people have been kind of concerned about. The Patriots offense, Tom Brady is averaging 312 passing yards this season, okay? The guy's 40 years old, and he's playing better than he ever has. At what point, I hope I don't have to tell you to start Tom Brady.
With nobody other than Gronk.
With nobody other than Gronk. Chris Hogan is not playing in this game, so that's something, obviously, you don't want to play them. The New England Patriots did their typical thing. They claimed their first victim, that Mike Gillislee was a scratch last week, because that is what Bill Belichick does. And that is why I hate starting any of their running backs, because Belichick does things like that. But let's talk about all these guys. Rex Burkhead, James White, Dion Lewis.
No.
You're not starting any of these guys.
Which one's getting the love?
Yeah.
I hate playing the guessing game on a week-to-week basis.
I'm with you.
Somebody's going to have a good game here. I just don't know who it is.
Brady, Cooks, Gronk. The rest of them, toss it up in there and see how many balls you can catch when they come down. Who knows who's getting the love this week? You never know. which means you're so hit or miss. If you're counting on a guy, it's really, really tough to do with Patriots running backs.
The Raiders are the 32nd, that is last, NFL defense in fantasy football scoring. That means that Tom Brady, Gronk, Cooks, and company are going to have themselves a nice week.
And company, I just wish I could tell you which one that was going to be.
Yeah,
I think somebody's having a monster day. That's guaranteed.
If you have any of them, if you start any of them in a flex position, you have a high upside because any of the three of those guys can get in the end zone, and it's a favorable matchup. I don't like starting any running backs. Yeah, probably James White just because he's involved in both sides. They do throw him out of the backfield as well. Rex Burkhead has been involved in special teams a lot. It's just. I don't love any of these guys. I say it all the time. Yep. Don't draft New England running backs. I know Mike Gillislee was the focal point of the offense at the beginning of this year. In week one, and it's now scratched. So you don't start New England running backs. You don't draft them. But everybody else we love. Now let's talk about the Raiders. Derek Carr, we've talked about him at length. Had some up, had some down. I think this is a week that he's had a little bit more time to prepare. He's feeling healthy. He's getting healthier each and every week. I think this is a good week for Derek Carr.
Yeah, coming off 3 consecutive 300-yard games, has the bye week. We've talked about the Patriots secondary ad nauseum and other matchups.
Yeah.
I see no reason why there's not offense galore for everybody in this game.
Yeah,
except Marshawn Lynch.
Except Marshawn Lynch.
Again, I'm not buying it.
Definitely not starting Marshawn Lynch. We've already discussed that, people. Cooper, Crabtree, I like them. They're both going to have a ton of targets. There's not really a lot of other places to go with the ball. Carr, I think, has a decent game, but this New England defense is going to continue to get better throughout the season. They're going back and forth from man to zone, which one they're playing more each week. I don't like it as much as you do. I think it's more of a middle play, but it's okay.
I think Derek Carr is in the position where you're talking about 12 to 16. I think he'll end up being in that range with the upside of potentially being more in the 6 to 10 range. Just because there are so many good quarterbacks that have very bad matchup this week, like Kirk Cousins, like Jared Goff, like some of these guys who have very, very tough matchups. I'm still starting Derek Carr this week, but as far as Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, and Jared Cook, I actually probably like Jared Cook the most out of all these guys, just because of the position he plays and the fact that there isn't really a whole lot to love anywhere else. I think that's probably the guy I'm starting.
The thing I do like about the matchup for them, though, is they're going to get their butts kicked. So they're going to have to throw it to try to get back in this game. So you might get, perfect example, I was playing against Matthew Stafford when they were playing the Saints early in the year, and the Saints were beating them so bad, and then the Lions came back and threw for 300 in the second half, and he ended up with a 45-point day when it was really going to be in my favor early on. I think you could see some garbage time, big-time yards and points from a fantasy perspective in this game.
We just